Welcome to today's educational webinar focused on Barchart's futures data pages. Discover why Barchart stands out as the go-to platform for traders and investors seeking unparalleled information and analysis. With an extensive coverage across commodities, currencies, interest rates, and equity indexes, Barchart offers a comprehensive range of futures data. So it keeps you stays informed with our timely data feeds, providing up-to-date information for making those informed decisions in a fast-paced environment. Hello, everyone. My name is John Rowland, Barchart Senior Market Strategist, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to navigate Barchart's numerous futures data pages, how to personalize the Barchart platform to customize options tailored to your specific needs, be it selecting preferred futures contracts, setting up personalized watch lists, customizing charts or technical indicators. And this flexibility ensures that you will focus on the information that is most relevant to you and your trading strategy. Additionally, Barchart incorporates news, market insights into our futures data pages, providing you with a well-rounded view of markets and keeping you ahead of the curve with timely news updates, in-depth trading strategy ideal webinars, and expert commentary, and equipping you with the knowledge to the futures markets effectively. So please stick around as I showcase Barchart's futures data pages, the pinnacle of excellence in financial data services. To help me today with our seminar is my partner and our moderator, Barchart's project director, Gene Baker. Hello, Gene.
Good afternoon, John. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm good. Doing well here. You're going to teach us all about the futures pages on Barchart today. A lot of information to get rolling with. So we're looking forward.
Just navigating it. So again, I think there's a lot of information. I think what makes us one of the best on the street is the depth of material that we have. And so we do have a lot of material to get to today.
Yeah, and I am going to bet that for those of you who are listening in today, you're going to learn at least one new thing about what's available on Barchart that maybe you didn't know before.
And I will remind you, I will go a little bit quicker today because we do have a lot of material to get to. But remember that all of our webinars are recorded, and this will be there will be an opportunity to rewatch this as many times as you want. Okay, Jade, ready to get started?
Yes, let's go.
All right. So to remind you that today's session is for educational purposes only, and to buy, sell, or hold or trade in securities, commodities, or any other investments involves risk and best made on the advice of a qualified financial professional. And under no circumstances shall we be liable for any losses or damage you or anyone else incurs as a result of any trading or investment activity that you or anyone else engages in based on information and material you receive through barchart.com and or our services. Okay. So let's do this. Whoops. So starting with our futures page, here we'll find a number of sub-pages below that will give you a snapshot to price action categorized in a multiple of ways, from say long-term trends to surprises to high lows to heat maps, etc. So let's begin with the futures market overview. And right off the bat, we're going to use this as our kind of our jumping off point. And you can see here that we have a data page here of most common or most actively traded futures contract. Now, if I click on the symbol itself, this will connect you to a hyperlink that will take you to the price overview page of that specific contract. Now, we'll get more to that a little bit later. Let's go back to the market overview page. And like any of our data column pages, you can sort the columns. In case here, like I have volume, let's sort by the most volume, or I could do it by the least volume. But also in all of our data pages, we have what is called our links, these three little dots here. And we're going to go a lot more into detail on these, but notice here on this particular data page, you can have access to bringing that symbol to a watch list or portfolio. We'll talk about Barchart's opinion and trading guides a little bit later. But if I go to where it says quote overview, again, just as I did on the symbol, this will take us to the price overview page. All right, over here on the right, we have our futures market heat map. And this is the 8 major categories. Again, clicking on one of the categories here will take you to the page that contains all the assorted different markets that are inside that particular category. Here we're looking at grains. If I go back to where it says see more, this gives you an overview based on a colorization on a percentage. Now, those that are up days or give you a greenish percentage, and those that are down days on a percentage will be reddish. So you can see here natural gas is up 2%. It's a dark green box, where hard red wheat is down today 3% and is a dark red box. Again, if I hover over the symbol, you can see what the last price is, the change in the time that price traded. And again, if I click on the symbol itself, that takes us to that price overview page. All right, just below the data page I just showed you, we have something called our futures trading guide and new trade alert. Now, we're going to explore the futures trading guide a little bit later in our webinar, but here you can find the full list of all the different signals for all the different futures contracts, as well as view the complete data. And again, we'll look at this a little bit deeper a little bit later. Below that, now we have a sort of futures related news items. And what we have is in our staff, we have 5 very good contributors. A lot of these news stories you'll see will be written by one of these top 5. These 5 have a lot of experience and or are still active traders. So a great source of information in terms of technical and as well as fundamental information. Below that, we have what is called our today's surprises. Now, these give us our today's surprises in up or down. Now, what's unique about this page is that the futures contracts here are ranked by standard deviation. Now, why do we do that? Well, because if we look at a range of different futures contracts, some are more volatile than the others, and what a standard deviation does is more preferable to us as traders over a percentage, because it puts all markets on a level playing field, regardless of that daily price volatility. And it's a lot easier for comparative inspection. For instance, how does a 40-point S&P move compare to a $2 crude move or a limit move in grains? Now, while I'm here, I do want to show you some interesting features. First is here I have a chart view, but if I do the drop down, there are some default views that we have that are set up on these data pages. And we have a main technical and performance for this particular page. Now, we're going to go a lot deeper into this in just a moment. But the other thing that I want to show you on this page, and you will find this on many of the other pages, and this is one of the benefits of being a subscriber to Barchart is that you can click an end of the day email. And this is a real simple way to stay connected to markets and market changes without visiting the site literally every day. And then below surprises, we have 1 month performance. Now here the change is a price related. It's in a percentage change of price over a lookback period of 1 month. And again, just like all of our data pages here, we do still have those same links. Watch this, portfolios, opinions, and again, that quote page. But we can go right from one of these data pages to an interactive chart. And here's orange juice, and here's a chart of what's going on in our orange juice. So a big surprise today in orange, and now we see it in the chart. Big price movements. All right, so from our market overview page, let's move down the column here on the left-hand side. We have long-term trends. Now these are ranked by a weighted alpha. Now what is weighted alpha? Well, it's a comparative strength of a trend over the past year with a greater emphasis on recent price action. Again, notice on this one, the default view that I have set up is a chart view. And I like this one because I can see, color coordinated and see which of the different commodities or futures markets I'm going to look at in terms of their weighted alphas. But again, if you're not into that, you could just look at, for instance, a main page would be more of like your consistent data pages that you're might be familiar with. Today's surprises, we just went over that. Highs and lows. Now, the default here is 1 month, and you can change this default from 5 days to 10 years. Now, notice though over here in our chart, in our data chart, our fields, that if you see one that is in boldface, this represents a new high or low that was made today. If not, then you will see the duly noted date of when those highs, lows, or highs were created. And a great way to kind of look at a market in terms of price movement on a monthly basis, but we can change those again to different time frames of what we feel is particular to us. We already talked about our heat map, and again, this is the heat map just for today. Our performance leaders. Our performance leader is defaulted to today's price action. Again, there's those different chart views. But we can change this again to a 5-day out to a year-to-date performance. Most active futures. Again, this is by contracts traded or volume. Now, what you might do as a futures trader is you might look for those days where you have high volume. Now, we don't see that comparative available to us. So we just see the total volume for today. But here we see the 10-year note has traded 3 million contracts. So one of the default views we have is a technical view. And under the technical view, you do get a 20-day average volume. In other words, what is the average daily volume over the last 20 days? As you can see for the 10-year note, it's 1.6 million. So you can see that we're not even towards the end of the day, and we've already traded twice the normal volume in the 10-year note. Well, that probably has to do something with the debt ceiling negotiations. And then we have our price by exchange. Now, this is a convenient feature, especially for our grain traders who want to search different grain markets over different exchanges. For instance, here are the COB agricultures, and you can see all the different agriculture contracts that they offer. But let's say, you're a grain trader and you're trading wheat, over different exchanges. Here's the Minneapolis Grain Exchange. Again, if I click on the contract, that'll take me to all the contract months that are traded for that particular exchange. And then if I click on the symbol, again, will take me to that price overview. All right, so let's do this. Let me go back to highs and lows for a second. And this is where we're going to start doing that personalization or that customization for Barchart. So I already showed you these default custom views. The main view, there's a technical view, there's a performance view, and then I also show you that there is some data tables will give you a chart view. So as I said earlier, these default views are a way for you to look at the information. Yep, but we can also create a custom view, one that contains data fields that are related to you and or your strategy. Now, under custom views here, you can see that I have multiple custom views. Again, one of the benefits of being a premier member is that you are allowed to create an unlimited amount of custom views. If I scroll all the way into the bottom, I can click on where it says create a custom view. Now, if I click on that, that'll take us away from the futures page, and it's going to take us to what is called the members tool page. And that's where we are over here. We're in the custom view under the members tool page. But this is where you can do that customization, be it watch list, portfolios, dashboards, alert centers, templates. We're going to look at templates a little bit later. And here we are in the custom views. So let's create a custom view. Let's just call this custom view futures. And I'm going to add that to my custom view. Now notice that we do get a few things that are standard or default to a view. Here we see symbol, full name, and list. Now, if you don't want the full name and list, you can delete those. Over here, we have a select a category. Inside the select a category, we have a lot of information that we can add to our custom view. Now, there are some fields that are futures related. So for instance, here, you can see maybe something which would be interesting to you would be, days to expiration, or your point value, or maybe, how much margin or open interest that current contract has. But you can look at a lot of other statistical data based on the different categories that we have here. For instance, if I just type in the word high, notice all the different types of highs we can look at year to date, over a relative period of time, multiple different highs. So let's just pick previous day's high for this example. And then once I've created that custom view, then I'm going to save it. Now, what can we do with this? Well, let's go back to our futures page. Where were we at the highs and lows? And for instance, let's look at grains. Well, here are those default custom views that Barchart provides, but we just created, did I save it? Yes, it's probably down here. There it is. There is our futures custom view. And here what I've done now is I can see that information that I've selected in that particular custom view: days to expiration, point value, margin, open interest, and so on and so on. Now, what is really nice about this custom feature is up here where it says, make this my default for the high-low page. And you will see this on many of the different pages that we'll go through, how you could create this default. And so if I click on this, and let's just navigate away for a second and then come back, and I go to high lows, notice now that the default that comes up for high lows is my futures custom view. And this is really a great way for us to maximize our subscribe membership. Now, I do have a few custom views that are very futures related. One here is called the Futures Guide 918. Here's one that's cheat sheet. Another one's called Small Ball. Now, I will show you that at the end of today's session, I have a bit of slides that will be attached to today's webinar where you can see, and I've shared with you some of my custom views. And here's the Futures Trading Guide view, the inputs, the cheat sheet, and the small ball. All right. So another way that we can customize our experience here at Barchart is, before I move away to, let's say, I want to show you a couple of the ones before we move into some more in-depth data. Let's again, so here we under grains, something called flip charts. Now, what is nice about flip charts is it allows us to look at a multiple of charts very, very quickly. So I can scan a lot of different markets. And I can just do this by this right arrow, and I can quickly move through. Now, again, we can customize our flip charts based on the type of a chart that we like, depending on our style as a trader. There's a variety of different styles. I just happen to like candlesticks open to close. We can look at a certain amount of look back. In this case, I'm using 6 months. But some of you that are future traders might be day traders, and you might only want to be concerned with what's happened in the last month or maybe the last 5 days. Under the More Data tab, you get this snapshot of information, quotes based on what has happened over, let's say, the last 5 days, what's happening today, performance over different time periods, any relative news story that might be popping up today. We're going to go into bar chart opinion, how to read this a little bit later. Our some technical analysis, and from stochastics to RSIs to average true range, and profile. If you're not familiar with the particular commodity or futures contract, what is its contract size, the maintenance margin, the size, the tick size, the daily limits, the time of days, trading hours. And again, at any one of these datas, you can go to the full page, which you can get that information. Now, on this page here, what I want to point out is there's 2 elements. First is that we at Barchart try our best in a lot of these futures pages and futures contracts to use or adapt the same symbol that the exchanges is. And for the most part, you will see that the exchange symbol is the symbol that we use. But there are some exceptions, and there are some markets that will have different symbology. And also you get a description of the particular contract specific. Now back to our flip charts. We have tools, drawing tools, calculation tools, and symbols. These are things that are universal throughout bar chart, like our custom views. These are universal. And we do have some tutorials on our education site that will go through these universal tools. Mode just changes it from a black to white. Some folks like the black. And multiple charts. And this one is nice because what we can do here is we can really accelerate that analysis. But when you do the multi-charts on the flip charts, it's going to show you the next 4 charts in this ribbon across of our symbols. Now, the one that I really want to show you here is this box here. And this is our template box. Now, Barchart does offer some templates that are default, very similar to our custom views. And the two that are related to futures markets are the TTM squeeze. I'll just give you a heads up, we will be doing a webinar on this one in the next couple of weeks. And our futures trading guide. Again, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail what that represents, but that template would be the chart of whatever style chart I'm using, but it's also going to use, in this case, the 9 and 18-day moving average. Now, if I don't want a particular template or want to use one of Barchart's templates, well, what I can do is just go for the plain vanilla. What I want to show you is how we can create templates that are unique for us. And so again, I'm going to have to go to our tools under chart templates, and there's all of my chart templates. Again, I could just create one here for now, but let's just go into one template that I have, which is called Just Charts. And that one I use just gives me a candlestick chart. But notice that under Just Charts, there is, and under templates here, there is a future specific template inputs. And one of the ones that will be relevant to us as traders is this ideal of contract roll. Now, if you're familiar with futures markets, you know that futures markets don't live forever and that they eventually expire. So this is a way to create a chart that will continue on and it will roll to the next active contract month. Now, there's a couple of ways that we can roll this. Now, Barchart, one of the ways that we do it is we look at the contract month that has the highest amount of volume and open interest. And once that is established, that's the month that we'll stay in until another month establishes that level of volume and open interest. But you can roll based on number of days to expiration, and there are traders that do this. Now, the problem with that is you need to understand what are the standards for days to expiration based on different commodities or futures markets, and that if you create a template, those days might be different from commodity to commodity or futures market to futures market. So you might have to create a template for each unique commodity or futures market. Now, if you're not familiar with this, again, in the slides that will be attached to today's session is that I have given you basically the standard of rollover days to expiration based on the different categories of futures and commodity markets. But I think, you know, as just a personal opinion and also from experience, I think the volume open interest will be the best way to roll contracts on your charts. And this will be a lot more, make a lot more sense to us when we look at interactive charts and we have to make a decision between using a contract specific or a nearby. All right, so where does that leave us now? So we've gone through our market pulse. I've showed you a little bit of commodity groupings, and now we're up to the futures trading guide. Now, the futures trading guide is a hypothetical trend following system that uses the 9 and 18-day moving average, and it creates buy and sell signals that occur when the 9 crosses over the 18. Now, I have several webinars, I think there's 3 of them, 2 or 3 of them, that goes into a lot of detail about how to use the futures trading guide as a futures trader. Now, as a regular subscriber, you have access to this page, but premier members from this point on below here, this is a premier feature. But again, one of the things that is a benefit of being a subscriber of Barchart is that you can receive the emails that will tell you when one of these new buy or sell signals. Now, for instance, today, notice that we see this is in bold, just like we saw in the high and low, and that is telling us that there was a new trade signal today. And if we look at the view details, now we're getting deeper into it. This is the premier part of the futures trading guide. Here, what it does, it gives you the entry date, the time, the price, what is the current profit or loss on that trade, and a little bit of a chart. You get some other data that can be found otherwheres on our page, contract futures, specifics, technical analysis, but then here are some of those historical results based on this particular trading system. Again, if you are somebody who's into back testing and you want to look at some historical performances, you know, the winners versus the losers or buys versus sells, this is where you can find that data. All right, from there now we can move to our commitment of traders. And this is a vital data for any futures trader. If I click on the commitment of traders, and if you're not familiar with this, this is a breakdown of open interest as is reported by the CFTC. Now, if you're not familiar with some of the nomenclature that the CFTC uses, you know, what is open interest, what is a reportable position, this distinction between what is a commercial, typically a hedger, versus a non-commercial, typically a speculator. And then when we get to some more granular reports, in this case, the disaggregated, again, how we break down and how we identify the different categories. We have a commitment of traders for financial futures. And then at the bottom, there is also a link that takes you right to the CFTC, excuse me, that will help you walk through some of this information or resources in terms of what a commitment of traders is. Now, what I think is really unique about Barchart, and I think this is one of the things that makes us stand out from other platforms, is we do offer a breakdown of these commitment of traders report in another data page. And for instance, let's look at the legacy report, which only looks at two categories, large hedgers and large speculators. And what is nice about this page per se is that not only does it give you the net positions of our traders, but then you can see these color coordinated boxes that are to identify when we see a large position, in other words, a 52-week high or a 52-week low, be it a long or short. Again, I've done 3 webinars on the commitment of traders report. One was just as recent as March, where I break down how do you read this, how to use this, and how to digest this information. But just looking at this as for today, notice here on wheat back on May 2nd that our large hedgers had the largest long position that they've had in the last year. That could mean something very significant. And at the same time, our speculators in wheat had the largest short position. So again, that could mean something to us in terms of how we analyze trend, or if we're at historical high lows, or whatever. And again, those webinars that I've done in the past will help you understand how to read this information. And again, we have one for disaggregated based on the 4 different categories, and we have one for financial futures as well. All right, some other resources that are found on our main page, futures main page, is our contract specifications. Again, there's multiple places where we can find this information, but this is where it's all condensed for you. And again, one of the things that you could take away from here is that we try at Barchart to use the same symbologies that the exchanges uses, but there are just some instances that we can't do it. Notice here on a lot of these currencies, our symbology is different from the exchange symbology. But then again, you can get your trading hours, your size, your point values, your tick values, your maintenance margin, and again, like I said, our point values. Futures expirations. Again, futures contracts don't last forever, they expire. What are those expiration dates? So the contract specific month, and then what is the date that that contract expires. First notice days, importance definitely in some of our grain markets. Most of us retail futures traders, our broker will not allow us or probably would discourage us holding positions past the first notice day. Options expirations, and if the futures contract has options, what are those expiration dates? Usually it's the day before expiration. And economic calendars. Not only do you get an economic calendars in terms of macro data, for instance, like FOMC meetings, but you get a lot of those other ones that are unique to commodity markets. For instance, on Thursdays, you have your natural gas storage report, but those of you who are in the grains or the eggs, you can see there's a lot of those USDA reports. So again, this is a way to, you can check every day, you see if there's a report or a report, the following day, that might have an effect on your futures markets. We have cash market information as well. Again, these are proprietary indexes based on data providers that we have, that we use, that we generate these indexes. And a lot of our grain traders tell us that they love this this cash index. Now we have it for corn, soybeans, wheat. We do have it for racks for some refined products, rack prices, and then yield forecasts. Again, you can see that right here: corn, wheat, soybeans, and our yields. Now, we also have European futures. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the different pages. There are a lot of them are exactly the same as the ones I just showed you. But there are some futures contracts that are traded on some of the exchanges, for instance, the ICE, that are European contracts. And the ones that I'm kind of thinking right off of hand are our energies. Again, our crude oil Brent is a very popular European contract, trades on the ICE exchange. And one of the ones that has been in the limelight just of recent is your LNG, your liquid natural gas indexes. And you can see here's the UK one, and then here's the Dutch TTF. So again, we do give you the European contracts and European contract information. Soft folks will, notice that there are some soft contracts that are more liquid, let's say, in European markets than they are in US markets. Okay, so at this point now, Gene, I think what I'd like to do is just pause for a moment since we've gone through the main futures page before we move into our contract specific pages, and take this an opportunity to answer any questions or follow up on something that maybe I neglected.
Yeah, so I believe I've been answering questions as they come in as best I can. If you've sent something along and I haven't provided a good answer for you, you can always email our support group at support@barchart.com. They'll be happy to assist you. And one of the other things that somebody asked about is, are all of the things that John has demonstrated, these are all available with a free membership? Yes, things like custom views and chart templates and flip charts. You do need a membership in order to create a custom view, create a flip chart, and things like that. So if you don't have a Barchart account, you can sign up for one. We also offer a free 30-day trial on Barchart Premier, which will give you some additional access to things like our futures trading guide. Okay, John.
Thanks, Gene. So Mike asked a question about the futures trading guide and best time frame. So Mike, I will say to you is at the end of the session today, I will show you in our archives where you can find those tutorials based on that trading system. And I think I've done 2, maybe I've done 3. So I will refer you to that because I don't have a lot of time today. I want to make sure that I get to a lot more material. All right, so let's go back to our commodity grouping, commodity prices. And again, I can look at a very specific grouping. Let's just stick with grains. It seems a very popular set of commodity futures that folks like to trade. And so let's move from here. So let's click on that access to get to that price overview. And here we are on the price overview for July 23 corn. And there's that symbology, ZCN23. And that is the same symbology that the exchanges uses. So right here at the top, it tells you what the last traded price was, how much is that changed in price value today, and then what is that in a percentage. Notice that our chart here, our data feed is in CT or Central Time. And all of our futures data, price data is delayed. And it's delayed about 10 minutes. So just be aware that you're not looking at real-time price data, but you can see the bid-ask and the size on the bid-ask. Below that, we have, just some kind of quote overviews. Where is the range for today? What was the previous price? How much volume we traded? Open interest. Some statistical and technical data, stochastics, our weighted alpha again. What's the change over the last 5 days, and what is the weekly range? Again, we have a chart. You can change this or customize this. If you only want to see what price data is over the last month or the last 5 days. I kind of like to use the 6 month. And again, if I want, I can just click on this access here. That will take me to the full chart. We're going to look at that in a second. Also, something I neglected maybe in the first segment is, anytime you see this star, especially in a lot of the data pages, if you want to add this to a watch list, for instance, you're looking at corn, you can create a watch list. And again, there are tutorials how to do this. And you could create a watch list and then say, well, I just want to add it to that particular watch list. Now, I happen to know that corn is already on my futures watch list, but let's add it to the commodities watch list, and we'll see if it says that now corn has been added to my commodities watch list. Now, I'm still on the main page here for the contract specific. We get a little bit of news, market news, and commentary. There's where you can find that contract specifications. Again, if you wanted a little bit more detail, you can click that access right here. Again, I showed you that before. You get a seasonal chart here. Now, sometimes this is easy to read, sometimes it's not. You can kind of see here with corn, there's a seasonality about prices tend to rise with old crop and fall with new crop. But also what I kind of like this is the 5-year average, the brown line. This will help you with, let's say, mean reversion type trades, or where you think the average value of a particular commodity. And I usually use this one a little bit more with the metals than I do with the grains, but that's definitely a good way, another way to assess markets. There's our commitment of traders positions. Again, basically just that snapshot, not that detailed. Again, if I want to do that. Now, there is a neat feature that we do provide with our commitment of traders. So I can go to the chart and let's go to, let's say, a 1 year. And what we do here is we give you the commitment of traders based on our legacy report here. That's this panel, and our disaggregated. And again, it tells you what the different lines and who they represent. And this is a great way to kind of do that macro analysis and also look at the commitment of traders report at the same time. Price performance, we've kind of talked about this already. 1 month, 3 month, 52-week, what's the range, what's the high, what's the low, where we are at current prices. Again, more quotes, different commodity months, forward contracts. Now on this page, there's 2 elements I do like. One is, first of all, relatable ETFs. So a lot of times I'll be looking at futures markets, maybe I'm not interested in trading platinum or palladium, right? Or maybe because the margins are too high. But we give you some ETFs that have those contracts in them and that you can use them same way you might trade the outright futures contract. But the other one here is our key turning points. Now, those of you who are futures traders who might be familiar with the term floor trader pivots. And that's exactly what these are. These are your floor trader pivots. Now, I'm going to show you where to find this in another spot, which I think is a lot easier to read and is definitely a digestible. But here's where you can get that quick snapshot of floor trader pivots. Under our performance page, our default here is 5 days, but I can break this down into weekly or monthlies, 5 weeklies or 5 monthlies. I get a year performance, and then again all those different look back periods that might be relative to your. And again, over here on the right side are some really cool features. And again, these are ones that I tend to use a little bit more than the stuff here in the middle. Is here you see our 52-week key points in terms of Fibonacci's. I know a lot of traders love Fibonacci. So here what you're going to do is we're going to give you a 52-week Fibonacci high and low, and then where is price based on those retracement Fibonacci's. And the other one is our new highs and new lows. And again, I really like this one. This is really great for trend followers out there, how many new highs we've made in a certain time period. And not only that, but it gives you an estimate based on current price. Where is current price from that 5-day high or that 1 month high or 3 month high? So you can see that for corn, we've made 5 new highs in the last 5 days, and we're less than 1% from that most recent 5-day high. So that might be an indication of a trending market. And again, if we look at from the lows, we've only made 1 new low over the last 5 days. Again, the market is trending higher, and we're now 7% above, 6.99, 7% above that low. Again, another indication of a trending market in this 5-day time frame. So again, I really kind of like those features, and that's a lot of in-depth information that you can get in a very short period of time. All right, so let's move on to our interactive charts. And this is going to be similar to our flip charts, but we're going to get a lot more customizations on this one as well. So again, here's our symbol, our contract specific symbol, some data. Again, very similar to what we saw in the price overview. I can change my charts to the different types of chart styles that we offer, anything from regular just high open, high, low close bars to candlesticks to Heikin-Ashi, whatever basically floats your boat. Again, my default is candlesticks open to close. You can add multiple different studies. Right? We have a lot of different studies. Tools, again, similar to our flip charts. Now this is where we get some differences. Again, here, remember when we were in the templates, we talked about how we can create a template based on different inputs or how we want to display it, what is our scale, and then that future specific, again, this will make more sense now as I'm looking at contract roll. Compare. This is, for those of you who are spread traders, or maybe you want to do a comparative relative strength in terms of one commodity or one futures to another. For instance, let's look at corn versus, I don't know, soybeans. And now what I have is a chart, a corn chart that also has the soybeans price action. Now notice that the comparative futures contract will be a line chart. You can't do candles over candles. And over here is our corn values, and then on the left is our soybean values. But, this is a great way to look at relative strength in terms of one futures contract to another. And, if you look at what's going on with soybean versus corn, we get in a bit of a price divergence where you can see that, these ones tend to trend together. So that could be something significant. Our FX button. Now, this is really where we can take futures trading to the next level. So I'm going to create an expression. This is for our spread traders. Now, there is a nomenclature that creates certain spreads, and you can use some examples here. And there's also some tutorials over here that under our help page shows you how to do that. But we at Barchart have created a lot of popular commodity spreads. For instance, one of the popular futures, financial futures one is the 10 and 2 interest rate. But here we have the crack spread for crude oil and refined products. We have the corn, soybean, and wheats. And you have the soybean crush spread. Now, just be aware that when it says corn nearby 1, 2, what this is telling you is this spread represents the first contract month that is available to trade versus the second. And then here we have the nearby first versus the third contract month. So depending on what you want to look at in terms of that spread, and that will give you that spread trade. And then a grid view. Now the grid view is different here than it is on the on the flip page. On the flip page, remember, we could look at multiple markets at once. Here, this is, I think, for our day traders, is a great tool because on the grid, what we can do now is we can do that multiple time frame analysis. What we're going to do is we're going to create a grid that has different time frames. Now, my methodology is, I like to look at weeklies, daily, yearly dailies. Then I look at a 3-month daily, and then I'll look at an intraday time frame. In this case, 5 days, 30 minutes. Now, notice that what I'm looking at is here that I can change these to either contract specific, in other words, weeklies, dailies, those would be contract specific, or I could look at what is called the nearby, which is that rolling process. So let's go back to the grid here. Let's turn it off. And that would be on this line here. So I can look at my range over a set look back period. In this case, I'm using 6 months, and I'm using the daily. So the daily means that it's a contract specific. I'm only looking at the price data that is unique to the July corn contract. But I could change that to a daily nearby, which would then continually roll me into the next month as time moves on, as we move from one contract month to another. Now, today we're in the July contract. That's here. But if we go back, let's say to January, and I have this cursor here, notice up here on the top, it's telling me back in January, this price information is the March contract. At that time, March 23, was the nearby that had the most volume and open interest. And so this is a way we can create a chart that is continuous based on these rollovers by how we use either dailies, nearbys, or daily contract specific. And you can do this again for intraday, dailies, and weeklies, and you will know that you will see a different chart based on if you're using a contract specific or a rollover or a continuous chart. And so that's where that volume rollover setting is more important if you're going to be using more of these nearby contract charts. Now, if you have a very specific time you want to look at, maybe you want to look at a date from last year or during a certain report or something, you can pick a very specific time. And again, you could choose a contract specific or a look at the nearby that was the most active at the time that you were choosing. Again, this is universal interactive charts. And again, we do have these tutorials that shows you how to get the most out of your interactive charts. So, if you're not familiar with some of these tools, I recommend that you check those out. All right, so where are we at now? Well, we have our trading guide. We talked about that a little bit before about how this is more of a premier feature. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth into that. So here's bar chart opinion. So let me go back to the price overview. I'm going to show you that. Up here, we have our bar chart trading guide. That will give you that instant signal. But also we have something called bar chart opinion. Now the bar chart opinion is not like some analyst that's sitting around saying, oh, I recommend buying corn. What this does is it gives you 13 technical indicators and the common interpretation those indicators give. And then what we do is we can combine them together to give you either an overall average or we can look at strength and direction on an individual basis. And these are based on short-term indicators, medium, and long-term. And you can see the different types of indicators. And what are we talking about here? We're really talking about moving averages and some technical analysis. Now, if I go to trading strategies, what this does now is it breaks down these technical analysis based on the individual indicator. Now, over here, these are based on a hypothetical performance of these individual indicators. How many trades and the average length of trades, and then the net results. Now, don't get wild about some of these words. Positives and negatives. It's because the hypothetical portfolio always keeps you in the market, and not necessarily be how you're going to use one of these indicators. You might use one to get into a long position, but you certainly wouldn't use it maybe to get out of a long position and then go short. But that's what this does. So these results are based on continuously being in the market. And you can kind of see this in the last few times. So it was a sell signal that eventually became a buy signal on the 10th, and that buy signal on the 10th then became a sell signal on the 20th. That 20th sell signal is now a buy signal. So it continuously is changing, going from back and forth, and that might not how you use that technical indicator. Technical analysis, again, some just basic information, moving averages, stochastics, relative strength, volatility. I really use this page to look for my average true range. And then if you are a follower of mine or have been in some of my futures webinars, know that I really rely on average true range, and I do have a couple of webinars on how I use average true range. All right, so let's brings us to the trader's cheat sheet, which I believe is one of the best tools we have for our day traders. And this one will break down based on different technical indicators, but this is where you're going to find those pivots. Remember I showed you those pivots on another page? Well, I kind of go right to the trader's cheat sheet to get those pivots. But remember Fibonacci's? If I click on Fibonacci's, you can get some Fibonacci retracements based on 52-week highs and lows and our 13-week highs and lows. So, another way to use Barchart to find some very specific technical data. Price history. So here's where we're on a contract specific symbol, and now we want price history that goes back a certain amount of time. Now I have my default set at 3 months, but you can use this from 1 month to 2 years. Anything greater than 2 years, you're going to have to use the historical data download to get that information. And we go back as far as January 1st, 1980. Now some contracts weren't alive back then or even trading. So, it depends on the life of the contracts and or, how long they've been around. So again, you can download that information for those of you that are into back testing or using Excel spreadsheets. This is where you can get that information. Options pricing. Again, very basic information here. Just basically, what is the price of the calls, the puts, some kind of basic information in terms of American options. If you have a futures contract that trades a different type of options, for instance, some grain options, we can trade, let's say, short dated new crop options. Let's go to, let's say, the July contract. You can get that data information. For someone maybe like our metals, you might have European options. So you could get that information. Volatility, Greeks, those of you who are options traders, this is where you're going to find your vol, your delta, your gamma, your theta, your vega, your IV skew, and the puts and calls. All right, so that brings us to future spreads, which I think is another great feature that Barchart provides, because most of the futures traders I know are future spread traders, and this is where you're going to find some really valuable information. So here we are in the future spread page, and I happen to just be on the December one, but it doesn't really matter at this point, because what we're going to do here is on the future spread page, it's going to give you all the exchange recognized futures, tradable futures. Now, there are different types of future spreads, and there's the different symbology, and there is a dictionary, and they run the gamut from butterflies to intra-market spreads to strips. But, SP is just a 1 month versus another month. And so here, let's look at the July Dees corn, new crop, old crop, I guess you could say maybe on that one. And there are links. Again, some of the same familiar links we showed before, watch list portfolios, and maybe I could add an alert. But here is where you can create an interactive chart based on this spread relationship. And this is the July D spread chart, just the same as the chart I just showed you on the contract specific. You can do all the same things, do all those studies, those technical indicators. You can use the tools. And again, you can look at this in terms of a multiple time frame analysis. So a really cool feature in terms of for those of us who are spread traders. Now, synthetic spreads is going to give you basically like an Excel spreadsheet here that calculates the value from month to month. So these are not, we call this synthetic because maybe the exchange doesn't identify, let's say, a D's 23 versus a D's 25 trade or something to that effect. Not that it doesn't trade, but I'm just saying this is what this lays out for you. And it'll give you the next 10 months of actively traded contracts. So here, for instance, like corn, we go out 10 months, that puts out to May 25, but corn contracts we do trade out to the year 26. For instance, if I go to like energies and I look at synthetic spreads, again, I'm only getting those 10 months, but if I want to look at price information in, let's say, crude oil, which we trade out, 10 years into the futures, then I'm going to have to go to the futures price tab under the commodity information. And there you'll see, all the different contract months all the way out into, 2034, I think we go out to in crude oil. So, not a synthetic spread, but definitely the information that you might need if you are trading some of these forward contracts. All right, which brings me to one more last point before we finish up, Gene. I know we got a little bit over an hour here, but I want to show you one last trader's tip. So if I'm creating a watch list or I'm starting to put together a collection of futures contracts that I want to use, and I'm worried about this rollover process, or I don't know exactly which month that I want to choose. One of the things I can do is if I know the symbol, the root symbol of my contract, in this case CL for crude oil, I can do star, and then I can push the 0. And what this does now, it's going to default to the most active futures month that has the most volume and open interest combined. So I push CL star 0, and it's telling me that that is the July 23 contract. Well, if we go down here to our futures prices, we can see that the July has the most volume and it has the most open interest. So this would be the star 0 month. If I go to star 1, what this does now is it gives me the first available contract month that I can trade. Well, in this case, it happens to be the same month, the July contract. But that's not always the case, right? We know for us futures traders that we know that sometimes we might be rolling before, long before expirations. For instance, let's look at natural gas, right? The star 1 for natural gas is still the June contract, the first contract that we can trade. But the star 0 is telling us that we as traders probably should be trading the July contract because that one has the most volume and open interest. And why is that? Well, because June is going to expire I believe this Friday. In other words, 3 days before expiration. And if you looked at the rollover dates that I gave you before, that was 3 days. So the market is already telling us we should be in the July contract. So why does this matter? Well, if I'm going to create a watch list, and here I have a watch list for futures contracts, and I'm going to start collecting these months, and I don't know which, I want to continue to be on the cusp of where the active trading is. Instead of picking a contract specific, what I do is I pick a root symbol star 0. And this will update my watch list as the market rolls from month to month. So that when I go back to my watch list, then it'll tell me what is the contract month that I'm actually trading, as I enter trades, but it'll continue to roll me as we move further and further down the contract month calendar. Okay? All right, Gene, so let's do this. So under Learn, archive webinars. I go in here under futures, those where you're going to find some of those aforementioned webinars. Here's ones on commitment of traders. Here's one on trading using the futures trading guide. Here's one on spread trading. And there's a lot of different ones. You know, my background is a futures trader, so I do give some risk management and some trading ideas and some strategies in some of these webinars. The other thing I want to show you under the Learn section is the site education. And under the site education, well, there'll be those general topics or those short tutorials that are universal to the website. In other words, here's interactive charts, watch lists, screeners, etc. And also over here, you do get a Futures 101. So for those of you who are just starting to learn about futures, it's a great source of information. All right, one last thing before we finish. So some takeaways. Barchart's futures page provides a wide range of information from performances, contract specifications, technical analysis, and commitment of traders. Our contributors offer timely fundamental as well as technical analysis. And one of the best ways to stay connected without visiting the site every day is through these email notifications. Watch lists, custom views, and templates allow the Barchart subscriber to tailor their Barchart site experience to those individual needs. And by all means, folks, if you have any questions about today's sessions or any questions about anything of Barchart, please contact support@barchart.com. All right, Gene, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Did I forget anything?
No, John, I think you've covered quite a range of information. So thanks again for covering all of that data for our customers, for our users.
Thanks for being part of the process, Gene, and answering a lot of folks' questions. So folks out there, please be safe, the best of health, and the good of all trading.